Hello everyone. So welcome back to our online lecture series. So in today's lecture we'll be learning about the electron transport chain. And in previous classes already we have covered the glycolysis and Krebs cycle. So the next third step is the electron transport chain. So that we will discuss today. So electron transport chain is also called as the oxidative phosphorylation chain. So this phosphorylation means already I discussed in the first class that phosphorylation is nothing but the addition of phosphate to the ADP or any other molecule. So that is what the phosphorylation reaction. So if you remember when I was discussing about the glycolysis, there I discussed about the formation of ATP from the ADP. So whatever energy that the substrate is giving, so that energy was used to form the ATP molecule from ADP molecule. So that kind of ATP production is called the substrate level phosphorylation. But here this is the oxidative phosphorylation. So what is the difference between substrate level and oxidative phosphorylation? In substrate level phosphorylation, so there is energy difference between the substrate and the product. So whatever energy difference is there, so that excess amount of energy will be transferred to the ADP and it will form the ATP molecule, so that will store the energy. But in this case what happens here, the oxidative phosphorylation, so because of the oxidation reaction, so whatever electrochemical gradient will be there, so that excess energy, so that energy will be stored in the form of ATP. So that is why we call it as oxidative phosphorylation. So here ATP will be produced because of the oxidative phosphorylation reactions. So if you remember there, in last class I have discussed that in glycolysis, so for each glucose molecule they will release 2 ATP molecules and 2 NADH molecules, right? So then it will form the pyruvate, it will form the 2 pyruvate molecules. So these 2 pyruvate molecules will enter into the link reaction, so that link reaction will be giving 2 carbon dioxide and 2 NADH molecules, and there it will form the 2 acetyl CoA molecules. So those 2 acetyl CoA molecules will be entering into the Krebs cycle, and in Krebs cycle they will produce the 2 ATP molecules, along with that 6 NADH and 2 FADH2 molecules. So whatever these NADH and FADH2 molecules those are being produced, so those NADH and FADH will be entering into the electron transport chain. So in this one, just I will explain in simple terms. Here what happens is that in this electron transport chain, oxygen will be converted to water molecule. So here the reduction is taking place, so reduction of this oxygen molecule is taking place. So whatever the energy difference is there, that energy will be utilized to produce the ATP molecule. So here overall it will produce the 6 oxygen, for the reduction of 6 oxygen molecules it will produce 32 ATP molecules by utilizing 2 NADH, sorry not 2, 10 NADH and 2 FADH2 molecules will be utilized in this cycle, and they will produce 32 ATP molecules. So now we will see how these NADH and FADH2 will produce the ATP molecules by converting oxygen into water molecule. So in this electron transport chain, what happens is that these NADH2 and NADH and FADH2 molecules will be oxidized. So oxidation means removal of hydrogen. So here these will hydrogens will be removed or it will be lost, and they will be forming the NAD plus molecules. So whatever the hydrogens they are producing, so those hydrogens will be transferred to the inner membrane space of the mitochondria. So these reactions will happen in mitochondrial matrix, and then the hydrogens will be pumped through the this membrane, and it will enter into the intermembrane space. So because of that, what will happen? So there are 4 enzyme complexes, here it has been shown in Roman numbers, that which are acting in this transfer of protons from mitochondrial matrix to inner membrane space. So those are they have mentioned in Roman numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4. So these 4 are the enzyme complexes, so they will be acting in these reactions. So because of the proton transfer from mitochondrial matrix to the intermembrane space, so what will happen here, they will generate a proton gradient inside the intermembrane space or across the membrane. So because of that, what will happen here, because of the protons, the proton concentration will increase in intermembrane space. So because of that, they will generate a positive charge, and outside the membrane, that is in matrix, what will happen here, the negative charge will be generated, and they will form a proton gradient across the membrane. So these protons these protons cannot cross this membrane, and they cannot come back to the mitochondrial matrix. So for that purpose, they will use one enzyme. So that is what the ATP synthase. So that enzyme will bring back all these protons to the mitochondrial matrix, and those protons will be added to the oxygen molecule. So whatever oxygen we are taking through breathing, so that oxygen will be utilized in this step. So this oxygen will be utilized, and this oxygen will be transferred to the water molecules, will be converted to water molecules with the help of the protons that are coming from the intermembrane space with the help of ATP synthase enzyme. So in this process, whatever excess energy is there, the electron gradient that has been produced, so that excess energy will be transferred to the ADP molecules to produce the ATP molecules. So in this process, electron transport chain itself, they will form the 34 ATP molecules. So compared to the glycolysis and Krebs cycle, in glycolysis also they will form only 2 ATP molecules, and in Krebs cycle also it will form only 2 ATP molecules. But in case of electron transport chain, they will form 34 ATP molecules. So if you see the complete series of reactions, this is the step where the highest number of ATP molecules are formed, or the highest energy is produced. So that is why if you stop taking oxygen inside, or if you stop breathing, what will happen? We will not get the oxygen. So because of that, whatever the major incident that is happening in producing the energy, so that will be stopped. So because of that, people will, or the cells will start dying. So because of that, the death will happen when we stop taking the oxygen, because that oxygen will be utilized for the production of energy inside our body. So that energy will be utilized by the cell for the living purpose. So this is all about the electron transport chain. So with this, our metabolism chapter is over. So in next chapter, in next class we will start the microbiology.